Simon Blattmann from the SAP Signavio Product Management, and I have the pleasure to give you some insights of our planned integration between SAP Signavio and SAP Cloud ALM. It's planned for Q4, so everything, so the concrete date is December 12th, where we have currently the GA planned. So everything what I'm showing you here and explaining you is still external and can still be subject to change until the planned GA. But nevertheless, we want to use the opportunity to give you already some insights on what we have planned. As Jennifer said, please feel free to post the questions. I will try to answer them at the end of my session. I would first go through the material. So as said, my name is Simon Blattmann. I'm from the SAP Signavio product management team. I'm the product lead for SAP integrations. The topics I would like to cover with you today is first start with the methodology to give you an introduction. What's the methodology of our transformation suite approach? Then explain you what's our strategy on the ALM integration, so the collaboration between also Solution Manager and SAP Cloud ALM, and then give you more details and also a demo in our staging environment. Here there's no sound. Could you briefly confirm if you can hear me or not? Okay. Okay. Okay, seems to be working. So then, thank you. I got your feedback. So standard integration, I will also do a demo in our staging environment. And at the end, also have a look in your questions and try to answer as many questions as possible. So with that, let's get started, and let me give you an update or an introduction to our transformation suite approach. So starting with our infinity loop, you probably all know very well, which is describing basically our approach from the process management, or how to get from fast insight to fast time to adapt. So we start with a discovery phase typically, then we have an analysis phase, then there's a design phase on the processes, then there's a solution design happening in the ALM tool, then the new processes are implemented in the solution, and then they are deployed, operated, and people are then also enabled. And all this happens along the 4 dimensions: the people dimension, the application dimension, the data dimension, and the processes dimension. And bringing this one level deeper, this means to explain you more how this works now in the context of this integration, is that when customers defining their business strategy and their architecture, for example, in Linear X, and also defining the value chain in Signavio, they somehow need to get to the executable processes and running solutions. And to get from the strategy to the actual execution, we have defined this methodology, which I explained to you in the slide before, but now in more detail what this means in the combination of using SAP Signavio and SAP Cloud ALM. With this, I go on to the next slide to a little deeper into the methodology as such. So in the analysis phase, we are using Signavio to analyze the processes, so to understand how your processes are running basically compared to the KPIs, to internal KPIs, to industry benchmarks, but also to see where do you have potential bottlenecks in your processes by using process mining. Then we have the SAP best practice content, where you can check, okay, how can I enhance my processes and go back to fit to standard, for example. And there we have also concrete recommendations in process insights, which provide you either correction recommendations, so how can you improve your current system, but also innovation recommendations when SAP has capabilities available which you are not yet using, then the tool helps you to identify those. Well, let's assume you know how to move, which processes to improve, and where you want to move with your enterprise architecture. Then you come into the process design. So here you're defining your to-be process, either from the scratch, or you have existing processes, you improve them, or you're leveraging SAP best practice content and enhance them to fit them to your requirements. You also might be using partner content to define the to-be processes. So that's all included here. This is typically done jointly with different stakeholders. You could also involve already here, let's say, the high-level solution design that you say, okay, certain processes should be supported by standard applications. Then you can maintain it already here. And then getting basically approval from all relevant stakeholders before moving on into the actual solution design. So, and this is also the point in time where we then hand over the to-be process model, that's the BPMN diagram, to SAP Cloud ALM via our new integration, and then continue with the ALM process here. So, for example, capturing the requirements and creating user stories, developing actual features, organizing your project by project tasks. Then you're building the solution, and then you're also testing the solution, and here also the involvement of the business users, which have been defining the processes. So the process owners and process managers are involved again to do, let's say, the user acceptance test in order to understand if the processes are implemented as it was intended in the to-be process design. Once the tests are also successfully completed and all stakeholders have agreed to the results, then you go into the deployment. So you push the processes into your the configurations into your productive environment, and with this, the process is technically live, and you can publish the processes also in SAP Signavio, provide the documentation to your end users, so the process performers and key users would know how to perform processes. Here you can also use our Enable Now integration to create then click-through videos, so respective personas learn even better how to leverage the new processes and execute the new processes. Important to mention is also that we have here the integration. So I mentioned already LeanIX, where we have integration on the process side, and with Cloud ALM, there's integration with Tricentis for test automation and test execution. And when you are done with the process, basically it starts all over again. So when you're executing the processes, you keep analyzing them to find out further process improvements you can then work on continuously. Okay, moving on. That was an overview on the methodology. Then how do we collaborate with the SAP ALM tools? So we have an integration available with SAP Solution Managers that's supported by our Business Process Model Connector. This is providing a data transfer between SAP Signavio and SAP Solution Manager. So that's on the market, already available. And then we are working, as said, on the integration with SAP Cloud ALM, which is planned to be available now in December. So this is the first standard integration, which allows standard data transfer from SAP Signavio to SAP Cloud ALM. And we are planning here an incremental development of the course of the next years to even provide more capabilities and a deeper integration with SAP Cloud ALM. Okay, now what's in for the December release? So for the integration between SAP Signavio and SAP Cloud ALM, we are basically providing the capability that you can hand over a to-be process model from SAP Signavio to SAP Cloud ALM. Meaning you can carry over process information as a baseline into Cloud ALM for doing your requirements management, for creating test cases, for assigning your documentations, and all the different ALM steps you are doing further down the road. Very concretely, what will we be providing? So first of all, the integration will basically provide it as an SAP-owned connectivity. This means we as SAP will take care of the service. We will even set up the connectivity between the two tools, between SAP Signavio and SAP Cloud ALM automatically, and we will just provide a service to you to use the integration. How this can be triggered and used, I will explain in a few minutes in more detail. Then the second point is you can synchronize the latest revision of a process model from SAP Signavio out of the SAP Signavio collaboration hub to SAP Cloud ALM. You see here on the right side already a screenshot, but I will also show it to you in just a minute in our development system. Then after navigation, you get a success message, and you can directly navigate from SAP Cloud from Signavio to SAP Cloud ALM. Then very important also to understand that the process, SAP Signavio is a leading tool for all process information. This means that all changes and updates, required updates in the processes, will need to happen in SAP Signavio, and then you can hand over an update to SAP Cloud ALM directly after editing. I will also show this, how this works in the demo. And then you are, of course, also able to navigate from Signavio to Cloud ALM, but also back from SAP Cloud ALM to SAP Signavio. Okay, so now a few more details on the provisioning before we go into the actual user flow and the demo. So we have the different personas which are involved here. At the very first, we have an administrator who basically needs to trigger the provisioning. And this is going to happen via SAP for me. So the administrator of SAP SAP for me or other person with respective authorizations needs to navigate into SAP for me, select system information tab, and then they will see within the BTP section an entry which is called the SAP Connectivity Platform for SAP Signavio Solutions. And this is always offered in the context of the available SAP Signavio workspace. And when you click, click the provisioning button, in the background, basically the connectivity add-on is provisioned for you in your customer context. The Signavio tenant is connected to it automatically. And we are also connecting the respective SAP Cloud ALM tenant, which we find in your system environment under the limitation that both the SAP Signavio workspace and the SAP Cloud ALM tenant are within the same business partner number. That's a prerequisite. So once everything is set up successfully, you will receive an email, a welcome email, and you can then inform the process owner that they can now use the integration productively. Then we have the process owner or process manager who is actually responsible to manage and document the processes. So let's assume the process owner has designed the new to-be process. They got all the required confirmations and approvals from stakeholders. Then the user goes into the SAP Signavio collaboration hub, needs to switch in preview mode to, on the one hand, activate the feature, and also to ensure that they always see the latest revisions of a diagram they want to sync. And then there's the sync button in the action menu where they can trigger then the sync to SAP Cloud ALM. Then they can directly jump into SAP Cloud ALM and review the results, but also the implementation consultant is now able to review the diagram, start conducting the workshops, or leverage the diagrams in Cloud ALM to execute workshops and continue with scoping the process and then capturing requirements and so on and so forth. And as said, whenever there's a change or update needed on the process model, this needs to happen in SAP Signavio and then synchronize the process again to SAP Cloud ALM. So how this looks like, I would like to show you now in our demo environment. our staging environment. So we have here the to-be process model, which has been designed by our process owner. It's a BPMN diagram describing the procure-to-receive process. I'm in the preview mode because only then I'm able to see all draft versions of a diagram. And I have here under the action menu the possibility to select sync with SAP Cloud ALM. So if I now click on the button, I get here a further notification which is saying, hey, you are syncing the latest revision of the diagram. Once the diagram is synced to SAP Cloud ALM, you can't revert it. The diagram can't be edited in Signavio and Cloud ALM. That's why changes need to happen in Signavio and updates sent to Cloud ALM. And if I now say confirm and sync, then I see here the progress. And then don't need to wait very long. Then the success message comes up that this diagram has been synchronized to SAP Cloud ALM. And I have here a link available where I can directly navigate to the diagram in the process authoring environment in SAP Cloud ALM. So the BPMN diagram is sent over as a full BPMN diagram. It's not editable also. As said, it's blocked for editing as it originates from an external source. And it contains really information on a detailed level, so I can click here on the tasks to see, for example, the title here. I will also come to a slide to explain you the mapping, how we do it. So what you can now do here, you can navigate to the General Information tab. And here we have the backlink to SAP Signavio in the Collaboration Hub, where you can then see the model in Signavio and also see further information like the description or further details on the activities. Now let's assume I want to do an update. I discovered during my Fit to Standard workshop that the process needs to be changed. Then I go here into the edit mode, I open the editor. And let's assume there was an agreement not to allow the manual creation of purchase orders, only using the automated creation. Then I would remove this activity and save this diagram here. Now going back into the Collaboration Hub, I refresh. And I see that there's now a new revision created, revision 2. I have synced revision 1. And now I can, again, go via the action menu, select sync with SAP Cloud ALM, confirm, and then the sync is happening. And I should also get here the success message, right? Here it is. And now I can navigate again to SAP Cloud ALM, and I see that the changes are already available here. And I also see that the sync here, the last change, basically when the last update was sent here. So what you can also see here, go here. But you can also see here that I have now a new icon here, which is indicating that this process has been synced to SAP Cloud ALM. So by clicking here, I can also directly jump to the process model in the process authoring app in SAP Cloud ALM. But that's in a nutshell what we are planning for the MVP release, for the December release. It's the very first, let's say, scope we are starting with, and from there we will continuously enhance and provide further increments in a continuous delivery mode. Okay, going on with the slides. Okay, so here is basically the landscape I just described to you high level. So in the middle, we have the SAP Business technology platform, where we offer the connectivity add-on via an SAP managed service. So this is basically what you are triggering via the SAP for me. And then the connectivity to your SAP Cloud, SAP Signavio workspace is maintained via two certificates. One is a MTLS certificate, and the other one is via AMQP. So that's our certificate. So there's also no technical API user needed anymore. It's all working via certificates. And then also there's the plan that we also will connect the SAP Cloud ALM tenant via an OAuth authentication. And this will basically all established via this automatic configuration. License-wise, the integration is part of the SAP Signavio Process Manager license. So there are no additional licenses or usage fees relevant, which are happening for the integration. And SAP Signavio is available as part of your SAP Cloud Service subscription, as part of the maintenance cloud maintenance contract, and is also free of charge for customers which have any SAP Cloud product subscribed. Okay, then going on, I also promised you to explain the mapping a bit further to you. So we have here on the left side the SAP Signavio. So we have here our folder structure. Then you have a diagram in a certain folder, and then within the diagram you have tasks. On SAP Cloud ALM, the structure is a little bit different, as SAP Cloud ALM is following our SAP Enterprise Architecture model, meaning we have here the custom process in the process authoring app. Then we have the solution process. We have the solution process flow. And under the solution process flow, there are solution process flow diagrams with the BPMN we saw. And within the BPMN diagram, there are the tasks, activities, the tasks coming from Signavio are called solution activities. Looking at the example, how did we map the names? So the name from the BPMN diagram in Signavio, so the my diagram name becomes the name of the solution process, my diagram. The solution process flow in SAP Cloud ALM remains as the default flow. Then the solution process flow again becomes the my diagram, taking over the diagram name. And then the solution activities taking the names from the tasks in SAP Signavio. And then in SAP Cloud ALM, basically based on the solution activities in the BPMN, also the tasks are populated in the solution activity library with the respective names. Important is also to understand that we currently only supporting a direct one-to-one mapping. So meaning one BPMN diagram in Signavio becomes exactly one solution process with one solution process flow in SAP Cloud ALM. Okay, so a few more details on the actual connectivity. So as said, the connectivity add-on for SAP Signavio solutions is provided, can be provisioned via SAP for me, and it then automatically subscribes and connects both the Signavio workspace and the SAP Cloud ALM tenant when they are under the same business partner ID, so meaning under the same legal entity in your company. So how is this planned to work? As said, the connectivity is triggered via SAP for me, and then in the context of your Signavio workspace, so meaning you have for each Signavio workspace, if you have multiple under the same business partner, you see multiple entries, and then you can basically trigger it there, and then the connectivity add-on is provisioned. And then the Cloud ALM, basically, Cloud ALM tenant is also automatically recognized and configured based on the rule that it is under the same business partner ID. And then we will, on top of this, we will be providing an administration UI where you can then review which Signavio workspace is connected with which SAP Cloud ALM tenant. If you see that you have maybe multiple SAP Signavio, SAP Cloud ALM tenants within the business partner, you can also manually update these credentials. So meaning you can get your service keys out of your SAP Cloud ALM BTP cockpit and then copy and paste it into this administration UI. But as such, this will only work under the restriction that your SAP Cloud ALM tenant is under the same business partner ID as your SAP Signavio workspace. And we will also only allow one connection at each time. So you will only be able to connect one Signavio workspace with one Cloud ALM tenant at the same time. So meaning, in opposite, we currently will not support a multi-system connectivity that you could connect the same Signavio workspace to multiple Calm tenants or multiple Signavio tenants to the same SAP Cloud ALM tenant workspace. Or as well, we will also not support that you can connect a SAP Cloud ALM tenant which is part of a different business partner ID as well as another Signavio workspace under another business partner ID. Okay, with this, I'm at the end of my presentation. So I see here a few questions. So let me check. So the first question is, how will you inheritate the folder structure from Process Manager to SAP Cloud ALM for solution documentation? So as that, as shown in the demo, and the mapping, we are currently not considering the folder structure. So we are purely focusing on the diagrams, and they will basically we will use the diagram structure to create the solution process and solution process flow and solution process flow diagrams. And then you have the possibility via additional scoping and enhancing via additional artifacts and attributes in SAP Cloud ALM to manage the solution processes for your implementation project. Okay, let's check what else we have. Our next question is, will the structure of the process hierarchy be transferred to SAP Cloud ALM? That's also a very, very important comment. So with the MVP release in December, we will not have the possibility to synchronize the process hierarchy, but that's certainly something we have in our mind. Yes, that's certainly something where we see the value and also the need to do this. Then will attributes synchronized? So for MVP release, it's we unfortunately not, but it's also something we are of course looking at. So we are also very eager to learn which attributes you are envisioning to have in SAP Cloud ALM, which are relevant for your implementation. So please also feel free to reach out to me on the attributes, but also on the process hierarchy if you want to discuss this further. Then there's a question, when synchronizing, what is actually get synchronized, the latest published version? So what we are synchronizing is always the latest revision, independently if it is synchronized or if it is approved or published, it will always be the latest revision for the MVP release. Okay, that's the question. So when I change a best practice process in Signavio to meet it to your requirements, and you sync it to SAP Cloud ALM, if the test cases also get adjusted in SAP Cloud ALM. So depends what you mean with test case. So the process structure will be the baseline to create your test cases. Yes, so that's also the beauty of the integration, that whenever your processes get changed and you send an update, it basically will update all of the structures you're using for your requirements, but also for your test cases. What will not be updated, obviously, is, let's say, the test documentation, the test script documentation, which we are providing together with our best practice content. So those would need to be updated manually. Yeah, there's a question. There was a webinar in 2023 where we said that the integration between SAP Signavio and Cloud ALM would be delivered before the end of 2023, and there seems to be a delay of 1 year. Yeah, I think that I understand this question also, where the confusion comes from. So what we tried previously is basically to replace the modeling editor directly in SAP Cloud ALM with the editor, with the Signavio editor. But what we are now doing is to have SAP Signavio standalone, and also have SAP Cloud ALM standalone, as you see it here on the slide. And we're providing basically now a connector which connects the two tools, which are basically completely independent. So that's the shift, the strategic change we did. So we have both tools operating separately, independently, and integrating them for data exchange. So it means there's actually no delay on this integration, but on having in general an integration available, it took some more time as we faced some technical challenges when trying replacing the editor in SAP Cloud ALM. So that's a question, what will happen when you have already manually uploaded the SAP Signavio process models as solution process flows from Signavio to SAP Cloud ALM, and the process hierarchy is already created. So what will happen when we use now, when the customer would use now the synchronization, the standard instance synchronization? So what will happen is that the integration will at the moment will not recognize the diagram which you have imported manually, because this means the diagram you are syncing over via the standard integration will be created again in SAP Cloud ALM, and you would then need to basically reassign the linkage to the process hierarchy, but also the artifact which you have created already based on the manually imported diagrams. That's a good thing. Thanks for the question. Just reviewing the other questions, just a second, please. So the next question is also a very nice question. So does the sync happen automatically anytime I push a new version to the collaboration hub? No, that's not happening. So at the moment, it needs to be done manually. What we are envisioning is that to integrate also the feature of SAP Signavio process governance, so that you can, for example, approve a certain revision, get an approval, and then do basically the synchronization based on the approved model revision. The reason is because we think that only because there has been a new revision created, it does not automatically mean that it is also relevant for the implementation or that it is ready to be handed over to Cloud ALM for implementation. And that's what I also try to show in the methodology. So the recommendation is really to jointly work together between business and IT and to decide when is the process ready, when do all stakeholders have agreed to the process, and then hand it over to SAP Cloud ALM for the actual implementation. And that would be the recommendation from a methodology point of view. So the next question is autosync of a process map from Signavio to Cloud ALM possible? I assume a process map you considering as value-added chain diagrams. So at the moment, those are not supported. You're only supporting the BPMN diagrams. So does the integration with ALM from Signavio Manage also show the person responsible for a task in the flow in ALM, just as we can see in Signavio? So yes, so if you're referring to the lanes, to the swim lanes, those are handed over. So we are handing over a complete BPMN diagram from Signavio to Cloud ALM. And you will also see, you basically see all the information which are maintained there and as lanes. If you are referring to a responsible person which is maintained as an attribute, for example, on a task level, as said, attributes are not supported yet. And so this information will then not be visible in Signavio. But for this, we have the seamless navigation where you can navigate from Cloud ALM into Signavio and then review further details in Signavio directly. So can I see in Signavio from process manager folder structure with process models I am syncing? So what you can do from, so the synchronization is only available via the collaboration hub. So you can see that navigate in the folders on the left side, and then you see the content. And you have, can quickly show it again. So there's also a possibility to synchronize on the overview. But currently, if you want to see, so I think the question goes more into the direction, how do you recognize which process models are already synchronized to SAP Cloud ALM? So that's at the moment, you would only see on an individual diagram level, looking at the icon I showed you in the demo. So the question is, when you already added requirements behind the task, but then do a new sync, is the link to the requirement gone then? So I assume you are you're meaning if you have synced the diagram from Signavio to SAP Cloud ALM, then you have maintained then requirements in Cloud ALM to a certain task, and you then do a change on the task and resync. Then these assignments are kept. So, and that's also the advantage of the standard integration, that with any update, and as long as you don't delete a task in Signavio, the assignments are kept. If you delete a task in Signavio and you sync over, as I showed in the demo, then the requirement basically moves up on the solution process flow level, And if you have created a new task, for example, you can reassign it in SAP Cloud ALM. But for any task which is basically unchanged, the assignments will be kept in SAP Cloud ALM. Then there's a question, are there any options to create a change request from Cloud ALM to Signavio? That's an interesting requirement, so interesting question. So at the moment, we are planning to, of course, hand over certain information from, let's say, Cloud ALM to Signavio, but for example, that you would see the implementation status of your process, or for example, also the status of requirements. But creating, let's say, a change request that we haven't looked at. So I'm really curious to learn what the use case is there. So also please feel free to reach out to me directly. Then can we unlock this diagram to be edited in SAP Cloud ALM? Yes, so I showed you in the demo the lock symbol in Cloud ALM. So there is a possibility if as administrator you can unlock it, and then users could potentially edit the diagram. Nevertheless, as long as you are using the integration, we would not recommend this because, as said, the Signavio is supposed to be the leading tool, and meaning leading tool for process information. So any changes should happen in Signavio and then synced over to SAP Cloud ALM. There's a scenario where this makes sense. So, for example, if you are planning to discontinue using SAP Signavio and you want to continue using SAP Cloud ALM, then of course it makes sense to unlock the diagrams which you have synchronized from Signavio to SAP Cloud ALM to continue working with them. But it's not intended as a standard case. Yeah, that's a question. Okay, if you have to be process synchronized to Cloud ALM and you have continued with your ALM project, with your ALM process, like you are in the testing and you recognize that you need a further process or change it needed to the process model, then you're correctly saying the change should happen in Signavio, and then you sync over the change again, the update. So how would you alert or communicate this to, let's say, the owner, the process owner? I mean, from a methodology point of view, that should be part of the business and IT alignment. So meaning you need to discuss this with the business, with the respective process owner, because there also typically needs to be a business reason to have an additional task. And when there's an agreement, then update the diagram and then send over the new updated model revision. So there is at the moment no, let's say, automatic notification possibility to send a notification from Cloud ALM back to Signavio. So that's a question if the SAP for me service, connectivity service is free of charge. So yes, the connectivity add-on, as you see it here on the slide, is free of charge. It's included in your SAP Signavio Process Manager license. And it also comes without additional costs for using it. So yeah, quite a few questions. So let me briefly scan and see what we can answer. So there's a question, is it possible to sync processes or also process structure? As said, you can only sync the process model structures, not yet, but that's certainly something we plan. So once you have updated the document in Signavio and synced to Cloud ALM, is there a way to reverse the change? As said, no. So once you have synced it, you can do updates, but they can only come from Signavio. So that's a question, okay, what capabilities will be part of the MVP and future release? Can we create test cases using Transcendence and ALM referencing to the Signavio process? So as said, the processes which are coming from Signavio are your baseline for creating test cases. And then using Transcendence, you can basically leverage the process structure and process information coming from Signavio. There's a question if the connectivity add-on should be provisioned in the customer global account or the SAP BTP account. So as said, and also here in the slide, it's happening. It's coming as an SAP managed connectivity. So meaning we as SAP will provide the connectivity add-on to you as a service. So there's no need to. There's also no possibility to provision it via your customer global account. So that's also a good question. So there's only one version in SAP Cloud ALM, but you can still sync an older previous version from Signavio to Cloud ALM. Yeah, so in Cloud ALM, there's the concept of having a draft and a published version. So this means when we're syncing a diagram from Signavio to Cloud ALM, it's received as a draft in Cloud ALM. And then, for example, the project lead the IT project lead needs to decide, okay, we are now able to look in the new process, to the updated process. Then the IT project lead can publish this process model. And with this, then the process, basically the updated or the new process, becomes visible in the SAP Cloud ALM app. It can be used for scoping. And then you can also use it further on for attaching your requirements and creating test cases. And this means whenever you have an update from Signavio, it's creating basically a new draft. And as long as you don't publish this draft in Cloud ALM, basically a new version of the draft is created. And with this, basically, you can manage the life cycle in Cloud ALM by publishing new drafts and on the Signavio side, continue working on further revisions. And whenever you have a status you would like to sync, you can sync it over to Cloud ALM. And then there, again, the decision needs to be taken, okay, to publish a revision to make it available in Cloud ALM. Does the links to sub-processes also get synchronized? No, that's not part of this initial release. Yeah, that's also a good question. So that the synchronization is initiated from the Signavio Collaboration Hub. This means, so first of all, only users who are allowed to use the preview mode, so this are typically the process modelers, and the process modelers also need to have the import-export permission, and only then they would see this sync to SAP Cloud ALM button and can actually execute the synchronization. This means any normal hub user will not be able to do this synchronization. Yeah, there's a question on requirements. So as said, the diagrams, the process information can be used as a baseline to attach requirements in Cloud ALM. And the further on question is if we would see the requirements in Signavio. So for MVP release, this is not possible. But going on, we're planning to have a joint requirements management between SAP Signavio and SAP Cloud ALM. So whenever you have here concrete ideas or requirements, please also feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to explain to you what our current plans are on this joint requirements management. So do I see if I sync a sub-process, the underlying the diagrams? So no, this is not automatically synced, so you would need to sync your main diagram and also the underlying sub-process diagram separately. The other question, how you get informed about the successful deployment. So I said it's you will upon the successful deployment, you will get a welcome email. So the administrator who triggered it, and you will also be able to check in SAP for me the status, and from there you also have then the possibility to jump to the admin UI I mentioned. There's also the ask for documentation. So as we are not yet, as the feature, the integration is not yet generally available, we unfortunately cannot yet publish documentations. But if you have here further questions, just please reach out to me, and I'm happy to walk you through further. So there's a question on mass upload of more diagrams to ALM. So with the first release, there is only a synchronization on individual diagram level possible. Then there's a question if the Fiori apps or executables are supported. So they're not part of the MVP release, but certainly something we have on our roadmap. So there's also a question if there's a possibility to sync a process flow based on released status. So I guess it's the diagram status, which is meant here. So that's something we are planning to basically allow using our SAP Signavio process governance to prove a certain model revision, and then only synchronize the process model revisions which are approved, or you could also define an own status in process governance. You could also say, for example, that the diagram is ready for implementation, and then configure the integration that only diagrams which meet this criteria are actually synchronized to SAP Cloud ALM. So that's also the question for a test environment. So at the moment we have no test environment available, but yes, we will see what we can make available after GA. That's also a good question regarding process variants in Signavio. So as said in the beginning, we do a one-to-one mapping, meaning one BPMN diagram becomes one solution process flow. And this also refers to the respective variants of a process. So a variant of a template process is considered as an individual BPMN diagram, which means you, on the one hand, need to synchronize it manually, one by one. And as we are currently missing also the attributes, we are also not able to synchronize at the moment the variant dimensions from Signavio to Cloud ALM. So roadmap is available on saproadmap.com. There you can always see the next features which we have planned. The question, is it mandatory to integrate Signavio to Cloud ALM? So no, but it's, as said, it's part of our methodology and also the tool chain, the business transformation tool chain, which we are proposing. And it's also an important piece of the SAP RISE methodology, which we are also currently rolling out. There's also a question to the colors. So if you use different colors in Signavio, if they are, when you synchronize to Cloud ALM, I think they're actually lost, but we would need to test. Because we are using the stencil set in Cloud ALM. So the shapes are basically converted into the stencil set of SAP Cloud ALM. And if I'm not mistaken, they are not able to, in Cloud ALM, you're not able to define different colors for the boxes. But what you can certainly do is what we recognize, take over the task types. So you can define if a task is a manual task, a user task, or automated task. This is carried over as you have seen it also in the demo. So, and here is a final question. In SAP Cloud ALM, it still needs to be published and then added to the scope. This is exactly the right understanding. So when we sync the diagram into SAP Cloud ALM, it arrives as a draft, and then you need to publish it in SAP Cloud ALM in order to make it available for your ALM process. And then after you have done your ALM, you then can, after you have deployed it, you then publish it in Signavio to make it then also available to all your end users. So thank you very much again for all your time and the questions. I'm really overwhelmed. And I'm sorry if I have not been able to answer all your questions, but we will follow up on them and provide the answers to your questions. So with this, thank you very much, and yes, have a great day, and looking forward to hearing from you again. Thanks a lot.